Hello everybody and welcome to the Derek Ruby Show. I am your host, the previously mentioned Mr. Ruby. Now, I just watched the Justice League Snyder cut, and the question the world is asking, was it worth the wait? Now, just to be upfront, I was not one of the people clamoring for the Snyder cut. I watched the original movie in the theater. I had a good time. It wasn't a masterpiece. It was a very fun turn your brain off movie, and I probably gave it a higher score than I should have. But I really liked it. I was never against it, even if it didn't live up to its expectations. So I'm going to be making some comparisons between the two. There will be spoilers, but I'm not going to do this as a full-blown review. I'm just going to talk about what I liked and didn't like about the Snyder cut. So right off the bat, the number one thing is, this movie is a lot more coherent. It has a better tone, the movie makes sense, and even the little things such as the color of the sky or the musical score, they all just feel like they work with this film so much better than the previous one. The other thing that's a vast improvement is the CGI. Steppenwolf looks like a complete badass in this version of the film. Now, I didn't really think he looked terrible in the previous one, but when you see a side-by-side comparison, it's night and day. Now, Cyborg, if anything, in the last film, he was practically non-existent, just kind of there to fill the role. In the Snyder cut, he feels like the star of the movie. The Flash also was improved tremendously in this film. The running in his last film looked like he was having a seizure. With all the money that they put in the last version of the film, I don't understand how they could have screwed that up. Now, this isn't the most perfect version of a speedster I've ever seen, but an improvement is an improvement. I still maintain that Quicksilver from the X-Men movies is the best, but you know what? This is acceptable and far better, and I really enjoyed that. Also, another big thing is Superman has his iconic black and silver outfit that you would see in the Death and Return of Superman comic books. It's kind of a no-brainer. I have no idea why they took this out of the previous film other than just stupidity. It was amazing to see that look, and I'm glad they brought it back. You also get a hell of a lot more Aquaman in this movie. The fact that we've had an Aquaman movie and we see this stuff, it's pretty good. But honestly, even though I'm glad they took a lot of the humor out of the film, I still kind of feel like some of the humorous lines he had from the first one might have served him better for some character development in this version, just so we know he's not just a dark and brooding guy. But you know what? That's just a little nitpick. Now, a lot of the battle scenes were reshot or had added footage to them, and they feel a lot more grand in scale, and that's always good to see. The number one thing about a comic book movie is you should have action. And when you have action, you should really give the audience what they want. And I feel like the Snyder Cut does that. Now, another thing that really made fans happy was Darkseid was in this movie. It's been a long time coming. It really shows off how the DC Extended Universe could have been. He would have definitely been their version of Thanos and probably would have been pretty badass. He's badass in this little bit, but just imagine if it had been a full-blown series of films. I really enjoyed that part of it, and hopefully it won't be the last time that we see Darkseid on the big screen. Now, here's where I get into a little bit more of the dislikes. Cyborg's dad was a good character, very important to the story. However, I question the idea that he made his son so badass that he could pretty much destroy the Earth without a thought, launch nukes, wreck the finances, or do whatever. It's like, hey son, I've been a pretty bad father, and I know I've depressed you, and you're probably pretty mad at me, but I'm going to give you basically the power to do whatever the fuck you want, no consequences, because I know you're man enough to handle it. Kind of hard to believe that. Also, one thing that's another nitpick of mine, but it really made me laugh, was you have the 3 mother boxes, and Wonder Woman says that each group, the Atlanteans, the Amazons, and Mankind, took care of the mother boxes according to their rituals and cultures. And you see all this stuff with the Amazons and the Atlanteans doing something really grand to protect the boxes. And apparently, Mankind's rituals and cultures is find a shallow spot in the middle of nowhere and just go ahead and bury it. I mean, you might as well just put a blanket on it, hid it under the bed, or taken it over to a bridge and just threw it off and said, okay, it's gone. So it kind of tells you that Zack Snyder and the writers just didn't really think that much about the culture of mankind. Now, while the CGI is better in the film, there's still a few spots left over from the old version that are still kind of jank. You know, there's just not much you can do about that. I mean, it is what it is. Now, if this film had been in the theater and we could go watch it, it would be better off if it was like a 3-hour film. 4 hours would be way too long for the movies, but in the privacy of your home, where you can take numerous breaks like I did, it was just fine. In fact, I never found myself watching it and going, When's this thing going to be over? And that's always a good sign. But the only reason I even bring that up is because the entire nightmare sequence at the end, it really does feel like it's tacked on. Don't get me wrong, it's cool, I liked it, but it doesn't really feel like it's part of the movie. Honestly though, for the fans that were waiting for this movie for a long time, it was a nice touch for them. And now I'm going to talk about the part of the movie that I was really looking forward to the most, and it's going to have its positives and its negatives, and that's Jared Leto. The entire exchange with Batman is pretty fucking amazing. I really, really liked it. I really think he gets a lot of shit when he doesn't deserve it. However, some of the stuff that he said in the trailer, as well as the screenshots with him having a crown of thorns and those black and white photos, that's not in the fucking movie. They did that same thing with Suicide Squad. They showed trailers making it look like a Joker-centric movie, promising you all this stuff, and then they didn't put it in there. Fuck you, Warner Brothers, for doing that. I understand that maybe some of that stuff will be in the black and white version. I'm not going to watch this movie again, but I probably will pull the black and white version up just to see if that stuff's in there. Now, the weird thing I keep seeing online is stuff like, Jared Leto has completely redeemed himself. He's the best Joker ever. Or I've seen the opposite. He's horrible. I thought he did a pretty damn good job. I do think he could work on that laugh a little bit, but other than that, I do think he did a damn good job. But I think people are jumping the gun by saying it's the best Joker ever. No different than when I said in Suicide Squad, people were jumping the gun by saying he's the worst Joker ever. He barely had 8 minutes in the Suicide Squad, and maybe another minute if you count that scene in B vs. S with him and Harley. That's not enough to judge if somebody is the worst Joker of all time. And by the same token, a small cameo at the end of a film with some excellent dialogue doesn't make you the greatest Joker of all time either. But what I do think it proves is that he does deserve his own film. So I would totally be for that. I would like to see a standalone Joker movie starring Jared Leto or a Batman Joker movie. Just something where he actually has a full performance. Then go ahead and start saying whether he's the worst or the best of all time. Till then, I don't understand why people just want to jump the gun, because honestly, there's just not enough there to make those kind of comparisons to all the other actors that have played Joker. Finally, I also hear people saying this is the greatest DC movie of all time, as well as the greatest comic book movie of all time. I personally think that's just ridiculous. To say it's better than every single Marvel movie that's ever existed is just funny to me. And I'm not saying that to hate on it. I really enjoyed the film, but honestly, I think the first Wonder Woman, Shazam, and Aquaman are better films. And that's just the DC side, let alone trying to compare it to the Marvel films like Avengers or some of the Captain America movies. However, I do believe that this one deserves to be in the conversation as being one of the best. But I don't think it's the best comic book film of all time. If you really feel that way, all I'm going to say to you is, take some time, let that hype die down, watch it again in 3 months, watch it again in 6 months, and then really think about, do you believe this is the best comic book movie of all time? And if you do, that's fine. But I would say that people are just overhyping this a little bit. It is an excellent film, an excellent home viewing experience. But best movie? No. But at the end of the day, the question was posed, was this worth the wait? And I would say yes. If this had came out when it was supposed to, it wouldn't have been nearly as long and you wouldn't have got all the extra stuff that you guys have wanted. I do think it's a vast improvement on the legacy of the Justice League. It is one of the biggest comic book superhero teams that has ever existed, and it deserves a good film. And the Snyder Cut is exactly that. It was cool to see the little cameos of Martian Manhunter and the Green Lantern and all those things. Whether you feel like that stuff was tacked on or not, it was still a good thing for the fans. Zack Snyder got to make the movie that he always wanted to make, put his vision out to the fullest, and that's always a good thing. So at the end of the day, I enjoyed the Snyder Cut. What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching The Derek Ruby Show. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram. And as always, have a good one, and I'll see you guys next time. Now that this movie has come out, a lot of people are asking for the Ayer cut of the Suicide Squad. Maybe Warner Brothers is listening. Hopefully they are. I would like to see the Ayer cut.
Because to be quite honest, I have been waiting a long time to see Jared Leto's full performance. And hey, maybe it'd be something good to come out around the same time that the new Suicide Squad movie comes out. So Warner, if you're listening, get on that.